What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video for the First Descendant, we're going to be looking at the Season 2 patch notes, which have been out for a while now already. Now the reason why I'm putting this video out a little bit later than usual is because I was actually hoping on being inside Season 2 and then kind of going through some of these items and being able to look at them live in the game as we go through the patch notes. But unfortunately, they seem to be, and by they I mean the servers and the developers of the First Descendant seem to be going through some login issues, and the maintenance for the Season 2 patch today has been extended, I guess indefinitely, because they've kind of like gone over the timer already. But that means we're going to go through the patch notes in the classic way by just reading them. Now, I want to also say that I'm going to try and make this video as concise and as short as possible by only sort of like picking on what I think are new items for us that we didn't know about at all. Since I've already done 2 videos specifically on Season 2 features and everything that's coming, feel free to check out the channel if you want to just dive into those a little bit deeper. But my focus today will be on these notes and specifically items which previously weren't detailed or weren't detailed enough, which we now have a much clearer picture of. Let me just move my face over here. We're gonna get started. And of course, first things first, Void Chaser is the new episode. It's the name of the new episode. This is the Void Vessel. This is where we will be spending, I would assume, the majority of our time in Season 2, since a lot of the items which we need to research and build and everything like that will be coming from here. But this is also the, mechanic that we're going to be using to level up our season, abilities and, pretty much all of that stuff. So I think that we'll be spending a lot of time here. Like, for example, we're going to need to go in here to farm the pieces so we can craft our doggo. So they mention new content here, everything like that. They mention all of the stuff that we know before already, like the shields, which sometimes need you to shoot them, sometimes need abilities to be used on them. They do, however, mention something very interesting, and it seems like more and more the randomization of this dungeon is getting less and less and less, because previously it was endless possibilities, and then it was corrected to no, it's random, and there are, many different paths. And now it says 1 from 3 random paths are chosen for the Void Vessel operation. Now, I haven't tried this yet, so it's super early for me to complain about this, and I'm not going to. Although I will say that for 90 days, having 3 routes to choose might be a little bit little, especially if you play the game a lot. So hopefully this is something that when we see the second half of Season 2, which is going to be at the beginning of Jan, that maybe they add more paths, so they add something else to it or something like that. I don't know, but again, super early for me to say anything. This might be a non-point and I shouldn't even be worrying about it, since the paths might be so completely different or something that it's kind of like doesn't really matter. But either which way, I just figured I'd point that out. Now, it is mentioned that you can acquire blueprints and materials for fallow enhancement item research, meaning like the food that you feed the dog to level him up, materials to research Keelen, and then also crystallization catalyst research materials by inboxes that can be found on your way. So loot you can loot inside this. Also, various tiers of data vaults appear, basically how depending on how good your finish time was, and you can acquire research blueprints, codes for Keelen and for the dog, and again crystallization catalyst. So it seems like it might be an exceptionally lucrative activity, especially if you're able to do it very efficiently. But of course, time will tell, and we will go ahead and test that out. Then Keelen is of course mentioned. We know everything about Keelen already with his abilities and everything. By now, I kind of like feel like I've already played him with how many times I've read this to myself. But what we didn't know from before is his 2 skill modules, which basically drop with him, and what they do. So this actually gives us more of an insight into what these 2 different Transcendent mods will do for us in terms of leveling him up. Focus on Prey is the first one, which says Void Corrosion is converted to a single target rather than multiple targets with an increased fire count. The max stacks of acidic decay is increased, increasing the peak of Tremor, which is his 4th ability, by the acidic decay stacks count. All in all, without going into too much detail, this reads to me that this makes him good at bossing, so this would be his bossing Transcendent mod. And then we have Mobile Strike, which converts Septic Gust to grant Adventurous Spirit to the player rather than dealing damage. While Adventurous Spirit is in effect, using Onslaught, which is his dash ability, does not decrease the stacks count and causing additional continuous damage by granting Accelerate Corrosion to the pierced target. This, on the other hand, seems like his mobbing or fast, sort of like going through an infiltration dungeon or something like that build. So I think it's kind of like carving two very distinct paths for him. I'm looking forward to trying both of these out. I'm very, very happy that we are getting a Descendant that it seems might not just be focused for mobbing, which he obviously looked good at doing already, but he could also be fantastic at bossing, which is always a good thing. By the way, side note, wanted to again just apologize for the quality of my voice. I'm actually just hearing it myself, but I'm still deep in this fight with the flu, so it's going to clear up one of these months, I swear, but I'm trying to get through it. Next up, we have Ultimate Sharen, which we also knew that is coming. We now also have her Transcendent mods mentioned here, although to acquire her blueprint and code with amorphous material, you can acquire research material from infiltration operations. So it seems like she's going to unlock the classic way, meaning like you either doing infiltrations or you're doing void intercepts. In her case, it's infiltrations, and that's going to give us actually the modules, the research items we need to unlock her. So her first mod is called Area Suppression. This means that Flash Sword is converted to throw daggers. This is the AoE dagger build that's like highly crit focused. To nearby enemies, daggers pierce through enemies to a certain level. Hit targets get electrocution debuff, and with a critical hit, the cooldown is recovered by a certain amount by the hit count. So, meaning that this build will be all about stacking crits, and then when you crit, you trigger additional cooldown reduction on the skill, which means you can spam it more, which means you crit more, and so this is her mobbing build, and this is how you're going to just chew through large groups of enemies. Then we also have Ambushed, which is her Transcendent mod, her Ultimate Transcendent mod, which is more focused on a stealthy sort of playstyle. So this says that movement speed increases in the active camouflage state. So now when you're cloaked, you move faster, which by the way, we're going to get to that part still, but by default, she's already just got that update. So now that's going to be even faster. So she can be like double fast. When you kill an enemy or deal a critical hit on an enemy, you regain active camouflage state with a set chance. So there's a chance that every time when you come out of stealth to kill something, that stealth gets reapplied again and you go back into stealth again. Shock Nuts, which is her third ability, which is the sort of like grenade that you throw that, you know, applies the debuff, is converted to frangible rounds, frag grenade, that deals damage by hitting enemies, inflicting electrocution to the target. This grenade was super impressive in the footage that we saw before and was dealing quite a bit of damage. It was very nice. It's saying that you can acquire Ultimate Sharen skill modules from hard difficulty intercept battles and module combination, which is fantastic. It is also detailed here exactly which pattern variants we will need to be able to, or which we'll need to hunt down. I don't know these out of my head, but we'll be able to obviously see in the game menus exactly which interceptions we're gonna, which infiltrations we're gonna have to do to actually get these. Then we have Valtia. Valtia is the new Battle Pass ultimate weapon. Okay. So this is the one that we're going to get by just unlocking the Battle Pass and then playing through the Battle Pass. Of course, as soon as you unlock the Battle Pass, you get, you know, a 1 or a 0 or 4, the first version of it. It has pretty much, I mean, we've discussed this in the other videos, but it's a beam rifle, so yuck. But it is exceptionally good at destroying the shields that are in the Void Vessel and in general. And it also allows this beam that comes out of the beam rifle to essentially chain to up to 6 targets. So it's a chain beam rifle. Then we have Hammer and Anvil, which is the second ultimate weapon which we're getting. So this also comes from infiltrations, just like some of the other rewards we saw before. Now, this essentially has an ability where if you're firing it off the hip, it shoots like a spray fire. And if you sort of like aim down sights, then it basically becomes like a much more, let's say, accurate round. So it's calling this Kuiper shells and then Gyrojet explosive rounds. So basically, these Gyrojet explosive rounds then obviously deal a lot more damage, but you have to be a little bit more accurate with them. I'm super excited to try this. I'm not a shotgun lover by default, but I'm always up for fucking trying something new and crazy. So this kind of seems like it might be up my alley. Then there's a new set called the Hunter set. So this is your external components, this Hunter set. Its bonuses are pretty awesome. Of course, you know, we're gonna have to test it out and see how it works, but basically the point is that the 2 set effect gives you 4% skill cooldown, which is not that great, but it's okay, I guess. But the 4 set effect is nice with MP recovery in and out of combat, which can obviously be very, very beneficial for certain Descendants. If you want to save on, let's say, some of the module space and things like that, you could potentially look at this set as offsetting, you know, a problem that you have with mana generation. And then, of course, it has this effect that says that when your MP is at 50% or lower, you basically have less firearm attack, but then it removes the shield upon a hit and you recover 30% of your MP. So it's kind of like as soon as you dip below 50, you take a little bit of a firepower attack deficit, and then as soon as that shield breaks, then you basically get a nice amount of your MP back again. I think this is going to be clutch for Descendants who focus a lot on you know, obviously skills, but also like casting a lot of skills rapidly. This seems like it might be almost like perfectly suited, for example, for the AoE build of Sharen, Ultimate Sharen. But of course, we're gonna have to go ahead and test this. Now, you get this by killing the commander, who's the Dread Armor, at the end of the Void Vessel, which is the boss at the end of Void. Then we have a whole bunch of new modules. Now, guys, I'm not going to go through all of these because I plan on making a separate video for it. But I will say two things quickly. Pretty much the call out that I want to make here is this batch of modules here. There's a group of 4 for pretty much all of the round types. Well, not all of them, but for most of them. And basically what it is it allows you to hyper focus into a specific element, meaning like if you set something on fire with the weapon, then you get a almost 90% increase to fire attack, right? Same with chill, same with electric, same with toxic. This is very, very exciting for me, because just looking at this right off the bat, I can tell that, for example, this mod here will be very, 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 very good on Enduring Legacy, I think, because Enduring Legacy already focuses around fire to boost itself up, and this is just going to boost your fire damage, which is usually the element that you stack into Enduring Legacy already, just all that better. So I'm very excited for that. Likewise, there's also a version of this which can go onto Greg's Reverse Fate, which is another one which uses fire, and that's just the fire weapons. So I'm super excited to get my hand on some of these modules. There are some other, let's say, more interesting ones, but like I said, there's quite a few that they've added, which is really awesome. It gives us more modules and stuff. I think I only need like 2 modules to be module, you know, completely like all of them done. So this is nice. This is more stuff we can go hunting down. We can get these from the Void Vessel. We can get them from Abyssal Intercept Battle, which is of course the new walker that was added, and module combined. So cool, cool, cool. Then we have the dog. All right, so he is going to need to be farmed from the Void Vessel. We will get the blueprint codes and materials needed for him, and then we'll be able to research him and basically deploy him as our partner, and he can, you know, loot for us, dismantle things for us, and so on. And we can also research items which we use to level him up, and that would also be coming, of course, from the Void Vessel. So once we are in the game and once we can actually see this, I will probably do another follow-up on this as well, because it'll be interesting to look at that. Then the Inversion reinforcement. So this is the level 1 to 30 that you level in terms of like the, you know, the season mechanic, if I can call it that. Of course, that's changed because we have a brand new season, but a lot of the modules have kept the same flavor. They've just become better. So I'll give you an example. We'll just take the very first one. Biodensity augmentation. So previously it said when defeating an enemy, it grants you this effect. This effect is max HP plus 9.5% for 30 seconds up to 5 stacks, right? So you can get 50% more, right? Now it's 11.7%. So there's a slight buff there, and this is something that we actually see across the board for all of these. Now previously I had made a specific video where I called out which ones of the previous board I thought were good, which you should focus on depending on Descendant, everything like that, and I will absolutely do that again instead of me sitting here and reading through all of these individually for you. The last table is then the one where we might potentially see bigger changes, because this should be related to the season mechanic. Just scanning over it, I see some ones which are still the same, like I see Excava being mentioned and everything like that, but nonetheless we need to spend some time diving into this table and of course unpacking it. Now the XP that you need to level this table will of course be gotten from the Void Vessel, as well as doing those activities per zone that you can essentially do 10 of 10 activities, which will be like kill 50 of this enemy, blow up 15 fucking red barrels, you know, stuff like that. So that we will also have to see if the same way in which we did those and the way that we could grind those out fast, which I also made a video on, is still the same. And if it isn't, I'll be sure to make a follow-up. Then we have the pity system, so targeted looting. So something that I have understood from the feedback that they've gotten is the system is a little bit confusing, but nonetheless the idea here is that you're able to set some target rewards, and then it means that the activities that you do that are capable of dropping those rewards will then, if you repeat those without getting the reward, will then at some point, where depending on the percentage of the reward chance, will basically automatically grant this to you, aka pity system. So we'll definitely be testing this out as well. Super interesting to see what this is going to do for us with gathering, like, let's say, some of the more difficult things that we might be looking for in season 2, like maybe, you know, ultimate Sharen, you know, pieces and stuff like that. Then we have the new Void Abyss Intercept battle. So this is supposed to be a super tough fight. We have one of these Colossus being added. You need to be mastery rank 18 to even try this fight. So this is really them saying, hey, this is like, you know, this is like going to be some really tough shit. The main point here is that instead of the normal sort of like frenzy that Colossi do in any case, this has like a further on enrage mechanic on top of that called Void Reflux. The idea being that when you damage them, it drives them into this rage, and then when they're in this rage, their destroyed parts and stuff like that will regenerate, and you need to knock these down as fast as possible, because in this rage state, these Colossi deal an insane amount of damage. So it's going to be super interesting to test some of the best meta builds that we have right now against these. I believe that this dude is weak against Chill. So it's going to be interesting to try Viessa against him and see how she stacks up. But this is definitely something that we'll try as soon as we get into the game. And then we have a second one being added at the beginning of Jan, if I'm not mistaken. Then we have 2 new hard difficulty special operations. Special operations have a special place in my heart. I've been using them a lot in the back half of season 1 to level up descendants and weapons and all that stuff. And it's really, you know, helped a lot. But they're not very difficult, and so this is supposed to be the fucking tippy top of difficulty in terms of mobbing content. And we have 2. We have a resource defense one, which is, you know, where you guard an area and they come towards you, and then we have a Kuiper mine area or a mine blockade, which means that you have areas that you have to go and kill all the enemies around, and you kind of like have to move around in there. So very much like the one that we know from Sterile Land, right, which is like a fan favorite. So this is supposed to be super difficult, and features also the enemies with the shields and all that stuff. So it's going to be nice to see how someone like, you know, Freyna, who pretty much excels at this kind of content, how she does in this. My suspicion is she's still going to absolutely fucking dumpster the content, but, you know, let's go ahead and see. I'm super excited to find out. Then we also know that our reactors can now level up, not just from 0 to 2, but an additional 3 levels to 5. Supposedly this was going to be unlocked by you accomplishing certain things in the game. My suspicion originally was it would be something like get 5,000 kills of this, or do this 20 times or something like that. However, now it seems that it says for reactors tier 3 to 5 enhancement, you need dimension analyzers. So it seems like they're making it an item. Dimension analyzers can be acquired through research. To perform the research, you need a quantum incubator, which was an item which was added in the end of season 1, which nobody knew what this did, but it was listed in our items. A ion accelerator and a precision ion accelerator. Quantum incubator can be acquired from abyssal intercept battles, so this bad boy over here, and from hard difficulty spec ops, which we just looked at right now over here, and of course the void vessel. So another thing that we need to basically farm for. So it says infiltration support function postponed. The infiltration support feature will be included in hotfix 1.2.1 to ensure stability. We appreciate your patience and understanding. Infiltration support feature, I don't know what that means. Does it mean like you can only play it solo now? I don't know. Okay, anyway, I'm not going to break my head on that. Then of course we have the battle pass being added. I'm just going to breeze through this stuff, guys. I'm not going to look at cosmetics and all that. We have things in the shop being mentioned that have discounts, all the stuff that's being added to the shop. It's nuts. We have advanced shape stabilizer being discussed, which we've also known already. We have a bigger menu now for things like emotes and whatever, all that stuff. And then we have, of course, the winter event. The winter event is running. There's a ton of stuff you can get in here. You can get a free ultimate bunny if you log in 14 times during the event. It's nuts. Definitely do that. If you're going to be spending some time playing the First Descendant over the holidays, it's absolutely a no-brainer to, you know, take part in this event. There are some other things mentioning it. This is just general hotfix stuff. I'm just sort of like speed scanning it to see if there's anything. I did make myself some notes, but I don't remember anything here that I wanted to, you know, really look at. I think I mean, guys, please go ahead and use the comment section if there's something important that my aging eyes, my flu-infested eyes have missed here. Otherwise, of course, we'll definitely come back to that. We do now know that you can farm Glay and Enzo's pieces easier because they used to only be in hard difficulty. We can farm them now in normal already, which gives people that are starting the game out now an earlier chance at these Descendants to get them faster. I know that there's some things like you can play Hangman solo now, so you don't have to group up for him anymore. They've changed some of the bosses to be, in my opinion, a little bit easier. Like they've changed the guiding of some of the projectiles and stuff like that, which used to be fucking ridiculous. Like this shit could turn on a fucking coin and kill you. So yeah, just in general like that. But then we have this entire section here where they've basically already detailed the buffs, right? The positive changes that they've made to the Descendants, which they flagged in the latest dev chat that we're gonna get buffs. So we have Viessa, we have Valby, we have Sharen, we have Luna, we have Jayber, and then Izumo was not mentioned before. He's also here. It's not major, but it's basically a movement speed buff that he gets, right? So the point is how they are handling it is there's general buffs to their skills of the Descendant, but then there's also buffs to the Transcendent mods. Now, for some of these, it's insane, but I mean, it doesn't mention percentages or anything like that. So this requires us to just go into the game and test these things. And just off the rip already, just looking at Viessa, this looks really good because you can see her cooldown on ice sphere is lowered, the distance it can go is further, her movement speed in Frost Road is more, Cold Snap's damage has been increased, Blizzard now deals continuous damage in shorter amounts, so I think you're going to get more ticks in your 6 seconds, and the burst damage is also increased, which is the explosion at the end. But then if you look at like Absolute Zero, which is her ultimate mod, it says skill critical hit rate increase has been added, right? And damage of Ice Sphere has increased. Cold Snap, the damage of is even more, and then Blizzard, the damage interval of continuous damage is shorter and burst damage is increased. Again, we're gonna have to test this, but this seems really good. I mean, Viessa was good, but this might make her fucking sick. So yeah, this Valby is I mean, dude, I'm just picking stuff out here. Everything is better. There are no nerfs here. Like Supply Moisture, firearm attack increase has been added. Like the shit was already doing that. So like it was already, I mean, it was already just making her, I don't mean it was doing that already. I'm saying like it was already making her really good at dealing damage with a gun. Now it just deals even more damage. Sharen, who is now her ultimate form, right, is there, but now shock nuts can also deal damage. The maximum number of short swords and fire at a single target has increased. The damage of the short swords has increased. The damage of cutoff beam has increased. It's just buffs. It's just buffs, baby. So it's going to be really awesome. We're going to have to revisit all of these builds. There's Luna here, who I haven't even fucking looked at yet. And then, of course, there's Jayber. I mean, geez, I should probably read Jayber, dude. I feel like a fucking asshole, like, if I'm just constantly bagging on Jayber and I don't read through this part. So Jayber's assault turret, the fire rate has been increased, okay, which is cool. It was already shooting pretty damn fast. Multi-purpose gun, movement speed while equipped with the unique weapon has increased. Reactivate, burst damage, and projectiles has increased. I don't know, man. I'm such an asshole, but this still, dude, this does not solve the fucking Jayber problem, okay? Then immediate purge code, burst damage of turret explosion has increased. Yuck. Attacking compulsion is the one where you get 2 attack turrets. So fire rate of assault turret has increased. So now the second turret is also shooting. I don't know, man. I don't know, dog. Like, okay, we're gonna test this, of course. I am not gonna sit here and talk shit about something that I haven't even gotten my hands onto yet. But let it be known, I have multiple builds for most of these Descendants, which will be revisited, and we'll be fucking, you know, checking all of this stuff out again. So if one of these is a Descendant that you're very much into, hold on tight, it's coming. Then we have some small changes to weapons, but let it be known it's not that small, because some of the stuff is to weapons which kind of like have not been traditionally great, which might now be a little bit sexier. I'll call your attention to Fallen Hope. Firearm attack increases on hitting enemies inflicted with poison. Nice, nice. Blue Beetle, skill critical hit rate of the arcane energy effect has increased. Nice. Last Dagger, firearm critical hit rate of the patient's effect has increased. Firearm attack increases when the patient effect is at maximum stacks. Nice. So yeah, we're gonna have to test some of these. Divine Punishments had some changes as well. So has Smithereens. And then Restored Relic, additional damage of the Ancient Fire effect has increased. Restored Relic, of course, being a launcher. I still think launchers, their problem is not the damage. It is. I mean, yes, the damage is a problem, but it's just, they just aren't good. So, yeah. Then it's mentioned that, of course, the new optimization for the reactors has changed now. So now it's not about, like, you know, mounting on Python and Enduring Legacy and something. It's mounting on the weapon class, right? So they've added all 11 classes. So for instead of saying mounting Thunder Cage, you'll say mounting submachine gun. They do also mention refunding here, which is very, very important. So let's say, for example, you have a reactor currently that you've gone ahead and put Python and Thunder Cage on. Then, of course, the point is that both of those are submachine guns, so it's actually going to refund you for one of those, which is really cool, and you know, just keeps the item being usable. Then there's some small changes to Reactor fixed farming improvements, which again we'll have to test in the game and see. And then there's a whole bunch of like UI, UX kind of stuff, everything like that. I do kind of like see in the background here right now. I don't know if I'm mistaken or not, but I think the login issues might be resolved. So ladies and gents, it might be time for me to jump in. But that is pretty much the patch notes, guys. I know that I glazed over a lot of stuff here, and it's not as detailed as I wanted it to be in certain parts, but I do also want to rather test these things while we're basically in season 2 now, instead of making a video where I sit and speculate about shit and then I have to do a retraction or another video the next day because my, you know, theories and bullshit was all wrong. So this is the patch notes in a nutshell. I do hope I am correct in that the login issues has been sorted out after I switched the camera. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and check that out. Of course, watch the channel over the weekend for as we start, you know, getting Keelen and fucking Ultimate Sharen rocking and rolling, as well as some of the new weapons, the mods, everything like that. It's all coming to the channel. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your support. And as always, fucking cheers.